Good morning, or should I say good afternoon, because most of you probably slept in. So, anyhow, what we're going to model today is just your basic everyday coffee cup. So, kind of as we look at this might be a little bit easier part than the measuring spoon we did, but it still will give us some new challenges and new things to think about. So again, I'm going to model this in the browser-based format. And if you're modeling in the home version of Fusion, you should be a lot more comfortable and be good to go with that. So again, let's create a new Fusion design. Of course, let's make sure we're modeling this in inches. And best practice, let's begin saving right away as coffee cup. Next thing I want to do is do a sketch on the ground plane. Since this is a coffee cup, I'll be building this from the bottom up. I'll grab my center point circle. I want to make sure I connect to the origin, and let's do a radius of 3.375 inches, 3 3/8. And I can finish my sketch, extrude that up a distance of, let's say, 4.5 inches. Now, something we'd like to notice is the bottom edge of this has a chamfer on it and some fillets, and it also hollowed out on the bottom of the coffee cup. So under modify, let's go to chamfer. I'm going to select that bottom edge. Let's see the chamfer. Let's try 0.375 as a chamfer. See what that looks like after doing that. And oh, that looks pretty good. And then on that bottom face, we'll go ahead and do a new sketch. And let's see, we'll go ahead and sketch a new center point circle centered at the origin there. Let's see, I think about 2.375, probably a pretty good diameter for that. That looks pretty good. And then we'll go ahead, stop the sketch, do a cut extrude. And we want to cut, make sure that's a cut. So we're going to have to flip it the other direction, and we want to cut probably about negative 0.125, negative eighth of an inch. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. Let's see, might want to take care of a few other little details. If we look at this, go up to the top, let's create a sketch, and let's go ahead and draw another center point circle centered at the origin. And this time, let's take that out to a diameter of 3 inches. So that will leave me about a 3/16 inch wall diameter for my coffee cup. Of course, escape always gets you out of the tool. And we'll stop our sketch, do a cut extrude again. And this time we'll cut down a distance of negative 4 inches. Okay, so that's pretty good. Other than that, does not look like a very comfortable cup of coffee to drink out of. So let's go ahead and add some fillets. Under Modify tab, or hit F for fillet. And let's go ahead and add some fillets on those edges along with that inner edge at the bottom. And I think if we do 1/16 of an inch, 0.0625, let's see what that looks like. Yeah, that looks pretty good, so that rounds that off a little bit more. Let's see, it looks like we also could fillet a couple more of those, 1/16 of an inch, 0.0625. And then just to ease this edge here a little bit, I got too many selected there. I'm not sure what happened. Let's pick that edge again. There we go. I picked a 1/4 inch. And yeah, that does seem to kind of round that off the way it's supposed to be. And then probably put that same fillet down inside the cup. 0.25, 1/4 inch. Okay, so that looks pretty good. And at this point now, looks like we'll be ready to start building our handle. Now to start building the handle, what we're going to want to have is an offset plane. So I'm going to come off of this vertical plane and let's do an offset plane that is going to come out 1.75 inches. Okay, so that comes out and leaves me an 1/8 of an inch gap between the side of the coffee cup and that new sketch surface. So then let's create a sketch on that plane, and then let's make sure we come up here and project the geometry of the top of the cup and the bottom of the cup. So that'll give me some edges to refer to. And then we're going to use the slot tool. Let's do a center to center slot. And let's make that slot. See, let's come up here and we need to put some dimensions on that slot. Let's do the distance on the center to center. Let's make that 1/2 inch. And the distance from the top of the cup to the slot, let's do 7/8 of an inch, 0.875. And then the other thing we're going to want to do, let's put a point on that center point. We're going to want this to be in the middle of our cup. So let's see here. We also need a midpoint on the cup. Oh, there we go. And let's do a vertical constraint and line that midpoint up with the midpoint on the cup, so that'll shift that over. And let's see, how about the diameter? Let's try 0.1875, 3/16 of an inch. So that looks pretty good. All right, the next thing I want to do is go ahead and finish my sketch and extrude this. So we'll go ahead and do extrude. Make sure you zoom in, get your profile. I want to make sure I am going to join to the object, and let's make sure we select that object and say OK. All right, so to make, that gives me this little platform then to build my handle off of, and I'm going to need another one down below, down on the lower part of the cup. So in order to do that, I'm going to want a midplane. So I'm going to select the little donut ring here at the top of the coffee cup, and then I should be able to select my bottom ground plane, the XY plane, say OK. So now I have a midplane, and then I need to do a mirror. So unfortunately, I usually like mirroring the feature, and the online version doesn't have that. It can only mirror faces or bodies, but this is all one body. So that means I'm going to need to go in and very carefully select all the faces of that little platform here that I want to mirror. So good thing I don't have too many sides to that. So I've got all those faces selected. And then I can go in and select my mirror plane and say OK. All right, now what I want to do is do a sweep where I can sweep from one of these platforms down to the other. I may want to go into my reference plane and turn that off. I can hide that, turn those off so I don't get confused. So in order to do that, I'm going to want to have a sketch on the plane that's perpendicular to those little platforms. That's going to go through the middle of the coffee cup. And then as soon as I do that, let's go ahead and go in and project those two edges of those faces. And onto those faces, or those edges, I want to get the midpoints. So make sure I can zoom in close and get that triangle so I have those midpoints. And then I'm going to want to draw a line between those two midpoints. and then put a midpoint on that line. Okay, now what I'd really like to do, I'd really like to have an elliptical shape here for this handle, but unfortunately, ellipse is not a tool in the online version of Fusion. So if you're using the regular version of Fusion, you probably would just do an elliptical shape. But since I don't have that, I'm going to use what I have best available, which would be just a center point arc. So I'll go ahead and start the center point arc connecting to all those midpoints that I just took the time to draw. We'll stop a sketch, and then I'll go ahead and create a sweep. So in order to create a sweep, you first want to select the profile, which will be that face, and then you'll select the path, which will be that semicircle, and make sure you have join selected and say OK, and there's the handle to our coffee cup. And I think when you look at that, it's a little bit more round than it should be. It should be much more elliptical in shape, but since that's not easy to do with the online version, I'll just use an arc. So there's the coffee cup. So we'll go ahead and save that. Now, after making the coffee cup, this would also be a great application of an emboss tool or wrapping text or putting a decal. We also don't have that available in the online version. So I'm going to go ahead and close out of the online version and show you how powerful this program is. So even though we have that online version, if I navigate to my folder, I can open up the coffee cup that I just built in the online version. And it looks like for some reason one of my planes is still visible, so let's turn that off. So this would be a great application of inserting a decal. So if we have the standalone computer version, let's go ahead and insert a decal from my computer. You'd have to have some type of picture that you want to use. So let's see, I'm just going to use my image. You're going to pick where you want that image to go, and we may want to rotate it around or resize it. Let's see, I'm going to scale X and Y both by a factor of 2, it looks like. And there's the Rockstar coffee cup. Say OK, and now I have a decal on my coffee cup. Very cool. And again, just to review how to share this public link, if you go on the PC version of Fusion, click Share Public Link. Go ahead and copy that. Make sure that's checked. Don't allow it to be downloaded, just share it at this point. And if you're in the browser version, switch back to the browser version. It's again the same thing, left click and select share. And again, you can copy that link in order to make the link in your answer document with a Control V to paste it.